Maria Santos pushed her cleaning cart down the long hallway of the Riverside Country Club. Her worn sneakers made soft sounds on the marble floor. She had been working here for 3 years now, cleaning the same rooms every day. The club was huge and fancy, with golden decorations and expensive paintings on every wall. It was early morning, and the club was quiet. Maria liked this time best because she could work in peace. She did not have to worry about the rich members looking at her with mean eyes or treating her like she was nothing. During the day, they would walk past her like she was invisible. Sometimes they would drop trash on the floor right after she cleaned it, just to show they could. Maria was 42 years old, but she looked older. Years of hard work had made her hands rough and her back sore. She had short black hair that she always kept in a simple ponytail. Her uniform was clean but old, with small holes that she had sewn up many times. She took pride in her work, even though others did not respect her for it. As she entered the grand ballroom, Maria stopped to look around. This was her favorite room in the whole club. The ceiling was high with beautiful glass lights hanging down. Big windows let in the morning sun. But what Maria loved most was the piano. It sat in the corner like a sleeping giant, black and shiny, and perfect. Maria had learned to play piano when she was a little girl. Her mother had saved money for months to buy her lessons. Maria was very good at it, better than all the other children in her music class. Her teacher said she had a gift, something special that not everyone had. Maria dreamed of playing in big concert halls one day, wearing a beautiful dress while people clapped for her, but life had other plans. When Maria was 18, her father got very sick. The family needed money for his medicine and the hospital bills. Maria had to quit her music school and get a job. She worked in a factory, then cleaned offices, then worked in restaurants. She never had time to practice piano anymore. Her dreams slowly faded away like old photographs. Years passed, and Maria got married to a kind man named Carlos. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Carlos worked hard too, but money was always tight. They lived in a small apartment on the other side of town, far from places like the Riverside Country Club. Maria thought she would never touch a piano again. Then Carlos got hurt at work. He fell from a ladder and broke his back. The doctors said he might never walk normally again. Maria had to find a better job, one that paid more money. That was how she ended up at the country club, cleaning up after people who had more money than her family would ever see. Every morning, Maria would dust the piano in the ballroom. She would run her cloth over the smooth black wood and remember how it felt to press the keys. Sometimes, when she was sure no one was watching, she would lift the lid and look at the white and black keys. They looked like old friends she had not seen in a long time. The club members often had parties in the ballroom. Maria would clean around them, trying to stay out of their way. She would listen to the music they played, sometimes live bands or singers. Most of the time, the music was good, but Maria knew she could play better. She had learned the songs they played, and many more difficult ones too. One day, a famous piano player came to perform at the club. Maria was cleaning the windows when he started to play. The music was so beautiful that she stopped working and just listened. The piano player was playing a piece by Chopin, one that Maria had learned when she was young. She remembered every note, every feeling the music was supposed to make people feel. After the performance, Maria heard the club members talking about how wonderful the piano player was. They used big words to describe the music, trying to sound smart, but Maria could tell that most of them did not really understand what they had heard. They liked the music because it made them feel important, not because they felt its beauty. Mrs. Catherine Whitmore was the worst of all the club members. She was a tall woman with gray hair that she wore in a tight bun. She always wore expensive clothes and jewelry that sparkled in the light. Mrs. Whitmore acted like she owned the whole club, even though she was just a member like everyone else. She was mean to all the workers, but she seemed to enjoy being extra mean to Maria. Mrs. Whitmore would often make messes on purpose, just to watch Maria clean them up. She would spill her coffee on the floor or drop her napkin, then point at it and say, "Clean that up, girl." She never said please or thank you. She talked to Maria like she was talking to a dog. Other club members followed Mrs. Whitmore's example. They would ignore Maria when she said good morning. They would complain about her work even when she did everything perfectly. They acted like she was too stupid to understand anything, talking about their private business right in front of her. Like she was not there, but Maria was not stupid. She was actually very smart. She spoke 3 languages and had read many books. She knew about art and music and history. She just did not have the chance to show anyone how smart she was. In her cleaning uniform, with her rough hands and tired eyes, people only saw a poor woman who cleaned toilets. Maria's daughter, Sophia, was now 16 and very smart in school. She wanted to go to college, but college cost a lot of money. Maria worked extra hours whenever she could, saving every penny for Sophia's education. She did not want her daughter to end up like her, cleaning up after rich people who did not care about her. Her son, Miguel, was 14 and loved to play soccer. He was good at it too, but he needed new shoes and equipment. Maria had been saving for months to buy him what he needed. Every day she put a few dollars in a jar at home, dreaming of the day when Miguel could join the school team. At night, when Maria got home from work, she was usually too tired to do anything but make dinner and help her children with their homework. Carlos tried to help, but his back still hurt a lot. He could not work, so all the money had to come from Maria's job. She never complained, but sometimes she felt very lonely. Sometimes, late at night when everyone was asleep, Maria would sit by the window and remember the music she used to play. She would move her fingers like she was playing piano, even though there was no piano there. The music lived in her heart and in her hands, waiting for the day when she could set it free. Again, Maria did not know that her life was about to change. She did not know that the rich people who ignored her every day would soon see her in a completely different way. She just kept cleaning, kept working, kept dreaming of a better life for her children. The grand ballroom piano waited for her too, though she did not know it yet. Soon, very soon, it would help her show the world who she really was. It was a Tuesday morning when everything started to change for Maria. She was cleaning the ballroom as usual, wiping down the chairs and tables from the night before. The club had hosted a birthday party for one of the members' daughters, and there were still flower petals scattered on the floor. Maria worked quietly, lost in her thoughts about Sophia's college application. Her daughter had been accepted to 3 different schools, but they needed more money for tuition. Maria was thinking about taking a second job, maybe cleaning offices at night after her day shift at the club. As she dusted the piano, Maria found herself humming softly. It was a song her mother used to sing to her when she was little, a beautiful melody that always made her feel calm. She did not realize she was humming until she heard footsteps behind her. "What is that noise?" A sharp voice asked. Maria turned around quickly. Mrs. Catherine Whitmore stood in the doorway, wearing a bright red dress and matching shoes. Her arms were crossed, and she had the mean look on her face that Maria knew too well. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Whitmore," Maria said quietly. "I was just cleaning." Mrs. Whitmore walked closer, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "You were making noise. Some kind of singing or humming." "What was it?" Maria felt her cheeks get hot. She had been caught doing something that might get her in trouble. "It was nothing, ma'am. Just a song I know. A song, you know." Mrs. Whitmore repeated, raising one eyebrow. "What kind of song does a cleaning lady know?" Maria wanted to disappear. She knew Mrs. Whitmore was trying to embarrass her like she always did. "It's just an old song, ma'am. I won't do it again." But Mrs. Whitmore was not done. She walked over to the piano and sat down on the bench. "Show me," she said. "If you know songs, show me what you know." "I don't understand," Maria said, though she understood perfectly. Mrs. Whitmore was setting a trap for her. "The piano," Mrs. Whitmore said, patting the bench next to her. "Come play your little song for me." Maria shook her head. "I can't, ma'am. I have work to do." Mrs. Whitmore's voice got colder. "I am telling you to play. Are you saying no to me?" Maria knew she was in trouble. If she said no, Mrs. Whitmore might complain to the club manager. Maria needed this job too. Much to risk losing it. But if she played the piano, Mrs. Whitmore would probably make fun of her. I don't really know how to play, Maria lied. Mrs. Whitmore smiled, but it was not a nice smile. Of course you don't. I was just curious to see what you would do. She stood up from the piano bench. Get back to work. Maria felt relief wash over her. She had escaped the trap, at least for now. But Mrs. Whitmore was not finished with her yet. Over the next few days, Mrs. Whitmore kept watching Maria more closely. She would appear suddenly while Maria was working, trying to catch her humming again. Maria tried to be completely quiet, but music was so much a part of her that sometimes she forgot. On Friday, Mrs. Whitmore caught her again. This time, Maria was humming a more complex piece, something by Mozart that she had learned years ago. The melody was intricate and beautiful, with lots of high and low notes that required skill to sing properly. There it is again, Mrs. Whitmore sighed, appearing like a ghost behind Maria. That's not a simple song, that's classical music. Maria stopped humming immediately. I'm sorry, ma'am. How does a cleaning woman know Mozart? Mrs. Whitmore asked, her eyes narrow with suspicion. Maria felt trapped. I heard it somewhere, she said weakly. Mrs. Whitmore studied her for a long moment. You're lying to me. Nobody hums Mozart by accident. You know this music. That weekend, Mrs. Whitmore had an idea. She was planning the club's annual charity gala, the biggest event of the year. All the richest and most important people in the city would be there. Mrs. Whitmore was the chairwoman of the planning committee, which made her feel very important. She was meeting with the other committee members on Saturday afternoon. They were discussing the entertainment for the gala. They had hired a string quartet and a jazz singer, but Mrs. Whitmore wanted something more, something that would make people remember her party. We need something special, she told the committee. Something that will make everyone talk about our gala for months. What do you have in mind? Asked Mrs. Patricia Hamilton, another wealthy member. Mrs. Whitmore smiled her cold smile. I have been observing our cleaning staff. One of them, the woman who cleans the ballroom, seems to think she knows music. She hums classical pieces while she works. So? Asked Mr. Robert Chun, who was new to the committee. So, Mrs. Whitmore continued, I think it would be entertaining ... to have her perform for us at the gala. Can you imagine? A cleaning lady trying to play piano in front of all our guests? The committee members looked at each other. Some of them seemed uncomfortable with the idea, but they were all afraid of Mrs. Whitmore's sharp tongue. Wouldn't that be cruel? Asked Mrs. Hamilton quietly. Cruel? Mrs. Whitmore laughed. It would be hilarious. She obviously thinks she's better than she is. This would just put her in her place. Show her the difference between real class and, Well, whatever she is, Mr. Chun frowned, but what if she refuses to do it? She won't refuse, Mrs. Whitmore said confidently. She needs this job. She has children to feed. She'd do whatever. I tell her to do ... double quotes. Mrs. Hamilton still looked worried. What if she's actually good at it? Mrs. Whitmore laughed again, louder this time. Good at it? She's a cleaning lady. She probably doesn't even know how to read music. She just hums little tunes she heard on the radio. When she sits down at a real piano in front of real people, she frees up and embarrasses herself. It will be the perfect entertainment. The committee voted to include Maria's performance in the gala program. Mrs. Whitmore was delighted. She spent the rest of the day planning exactly how she would surprise Maria and force her to play. Meanwhile, Maria had no idea what was being planned. She continued her work as usual, cleaning the ballroom every morning and trying not to hum while Mrs. Whitmore was around. She was focused on her family's needs and her dreams for her children's future. That Sunday, Sophia asked her mother about her college plans. Mama, I need to decide soon which school to choose. Have you saved enough money? Maria looked at her beautiful daughter, so smart and full of hope. We will find a way, Mia. You will go to college, I promise. Sophia hugged her mother. I wish I could help more. I could get a job instead of going to school? No, Maria said firmly. You will study. You will have the life I never had. That is why I work so hard. Miguel was practicing soccer in their small backyard. He was getting better every day, but he still needed proper equipment to join the school team. Maria watched him through the window and made a mental note to check the prices at the sports store again. Carlos was sitting in his chair, reading a book. His back was a little better lately, but he still could not work. "Maria," he said, "you look tired. Are you okay?" Maria smiled at her husband. "I'm fine, just thinking about work." "The rich people treating you badly again?" Carlos asked. He worried about his wife working at the country club. He knew how mean rich people could be to workers. "Nothing I can't handle," Maria said. She did not want to worry Carlos about Mrs. Whitmore's strange behavior lately. That night, Maria lay in bed thinking about music. She had not played piano in so many years, but she still remembered everything. Her fingers still knew where all the keys were. Her heart still felt the rhythm of all her favorite songs. Sometimes she dreamed about playing piano again, about sitting at a beautiful instrument and letting the music flow through her hands. But dreams were just dreams. Real life was cleaning bathrooms and saving pennies and hoping her children would have better lives than she did. Maria had no way of knowing that her dreams and her real life were about to collide in the most unexpected way. Mrs. Whitmore's cruel plan was already in motion, and soon Maria would face the biggest challenge of her life. The annual charity gala was only 2 weeks away. In 2 weeks, Maria's secret would be revealed, and her life would never be the same again. The night of the charity gala arrived like a storm that Maria did not see coming. She had been working all day, preparing the ballroom for the biggest event of the year. The room looked like a palace, with white flowers everywhere and golden lights that made everything sparkle. Maria had helped arrange 200 chairs around elegant tables covered with expensive white cloth. Crystal glasses caught the light from the chandeliers above. The smell of roses and lilac filled the air. It was the most beautiful the ballroom had ever looked, all day. Maria had been nervous. Mrs. Whitmore had been watching her with strange eyes, like a cat watching a mouse. Something was different about the way she looked at Maria, something that made Maria's stomach feel tight with worry. The guests started arriving at 7 o'clock. Maria watched from the kitchen doorway as the most important people in the city walked into the ballroom. The women wore long, expensive dresses that probably cost more than Maria made in a whole year. The men wore black suits with bow ties, looking serious and important. Maria recognized some of them from the newspapers. There was the mayor and his wife. There was the owner of the biggest bank in the city. There was a famous doctor who had been on television. All of them were rich and powerful, the kind of people who could change lives with just a few words. Mrs. Whitmore was wearing a gold dress that shone like the sun. She walked around the room like a queen, greeting all the important guests. Maria could hear her laughing loudly, trying to make sure everyone noticed her. "Maria," called Mrs. Peterson, the club manager. "Come here, please." Maria hurried over. Mrs. Peterson was a kind woman who always treated the workers fairly. She looked worried about something. "Mrs. Whitmore wants to see you," Mrs. Peterson sighed quietly. "She's in the small meeting room next to the ballroom." Maria's heart started beating faster. "Did I do something wrong?" "I don't know," Mrs. Peterson said. "Just be careful. She's been acting strange all week." Maria walked to the meeting room with slow steps. She knocked on the door softly. "Come in," Mrs. Whitmore's voice called. Maria opened the door and stepped. Inside, Mrs. Whitmore was sitting at a small table, looking at some papers. When she saw Maria, she smiled her cold smile. "Ah, Maria, come sit down." Maria sat in the chair across from Mrs. Whitmore. "Yes, ma'am." "Tonight is very special," Mrs. Whitmore said, still smiling. "We have very important guests, and I want to make sure they have the best evening possible." "Yes, ma'am," Maria said again, not sure where this was going. Mrs. Whitmore leaned forward. "I have been thinking about our conversations lately. About music, about the songs, you know." Maria felt cold fear in her stomach. "I don't understand, ma'am." "I think you do understand," Mrs. Whitmore said. "Tonight you're going to help me entertain our guests. You're going to play piano for them." Maria's mouth dropped open. What? No, ma'am, I can't do that. I'm not a piano player. I'm just a cleaning lady. Mrs. Whitmore's smile got bigger. Oh, but you are a piano player. I've heard you humming complex classical pieces. No one hums Mozart unless they know how to play it. I can't play piano in front of all those people, Maria said, her voice shaking. Please, ma'am, I don't know how. You're lying to me again, Mrs. Whitmore said, her voice getting harder. And I don't like being lied to, Maria stood up quickly. I have to get back to work. The kitchen needs help with the dinner service. Sit down, Mrs. Whitmore said sharply. We're not finished. Maria sat back down, her hands shaking in her lap. Mrs. Whitmore pulled out a piece of paper. This is tonight's program. See this line here? It says, Special Musical Performance by Maria Santos. Your name is already printed on 200 programs. Maria stared at the paper like it was a snake. You can't make me do this, can't I? Mrs. Whitmore asked, raising one eyebrow. You work for this club? I am one of the most important members of this club. If I say you're performing tonight, you're performing tonight. But I'll embarrass myself, Maria said, tears starting to form in her eyes. I'll embarrass you too, Mrs. Whitmore laughed. Oh, I'm counting on it. The guests will find it ... amusing ... To watch a cleaning lady try to play piano, it will be the entertainment of the evening. Maria finally understood this was not about music. This was about humiliation. Mrs. Whitmore wanted to make fun of her in front of all those important people. Please don't do this to me, Maria whispered. It's already done, Mrs. Whitmore said, standing up. You'll perform right after dinner, around 9 o'clock. Don't even think about leaving early or calling in sick. If you're not there, you're fired. And I'll make sure no other club in this city ever hires you. Maria knew Mrs. Whitmore had the power to do exactly what she threatened. Rich people like her knew other rich people. One phone call could ruin Maria's chances of getting another job. What song do you want me to play? Maria asked quietly. Whatever you want, Mrs. Whitmore said. Something classical, since you seem to know so much about it. Just make sure it's impressive enough to match your humming. Mrs. Whitmore left the room, leaving Maria alone with her fear. Maria put her head in her hands and tried not to cry. She thought about her children, about the college tuition they needed, about Miguel's soccer equipment. She could not afford to lose this job. The dinner service began at 8 o'clock. Maria helped serve the food, but her hands were shaking so much that she nearly dropped a plate. The guests were eating expensive food and drinking wine that cost more than Maria made in a month. They were all laughing and talking loudly, having the time of their lives. Maria watched them from the kitchen and felt sick. In 1 hour, she would have to stand in front of all these people and play piano. They would laugh at her just like Mrs. Whitmore wanted them to. They would see her as a joke, a poor woman who thought she was better than she was. At 8:45, Mrs. Whitmore found Maria in the kitchen. Time to get ready, she said with fake sweetness. The guests are very excited to hear you play. Maria followed Mrs. Whitmore into the ballroom. The guests had finished eating and were talking quietly at their tables. The room was full of cigarette smoke and the smell of expensive perfume. Mrs. Whitmore walked to the front of the room and tapped her glass with a spoon. The room slowly got quiet as everyone turned to look at her. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Whitmore said in a loud, clear voice, we have a special treat for you tonight. One of our club employees has a hidden talent that she's been keeping secret from us. Maria stood near the wall, hoping she could disappear. Every eye in the room was now looking at Mrs. Whitmore. Our cleaning lady, Maria Santos, has been humming classical music while she works. She seems to think she knows quite a bit about piano. So, tonight, we're going to give her a chance to show us what she can do. Some of the guests started whispering to each other. Maria could see them looking around the room, trying to figure out who Mrs. Whitmore was talking about. Maria, come up here, Mrs. Whitmore said, looking directly at her. Maria felt like her feet were stuck to the floor. She could not move. 200 pairs of eyes were looking for her now. Maria? Mrs. Whitmore said again, louder this time, slowly. Maria started walking toward the front of the room. Her legs felt like water. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. The guests were all staring at her now, taking in her simple black uniform and her nervous face. She could hear whispers as she walked. "That's her? The cleaning lady? This should be interesting." Maria reached the piano and stood next to it. Not knowing what to do, Mrs. Whitmore was smiling her evil smile, enjoying every second of Maria's embarrassment. "Go ahead, Maria," Mrs. Whitmore said loudly. "Show our guests what you can do." Maria looked out at the crowd of rich, important people. They were all waiting for her to fail. They wanted to see her make a fool of herself so they could feel better about themselves. She thought about running away, but there was nowhere to go. She thought about her children at home, counting on her to keep this job. She thought about all the dreams she had given up years ago. Maria took a deep breath and sat down at the piano bench. Her hands were shaking as she placed them on the keys. The room was completely silent now, waiting for the show to begin. This was it. This was the moment that would change everything. Maria sat at the piano bench, her hands trembling on the keys. The ballroom was so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. 200 wealthy guests stared at her, waiting for her to embarrass herself. Mrs. Whitmore stood nearby with her cruel smile, ready to enjoy the show. Maria closed her eyes for a moment and thought about her mother. She remembered being 7 years old, sitting at their old piano at home. Her mother had saved for months to buy those piano lessons. "Music is a gift, Mia," her mother had said. "When you play, you share your heart with the world." Maria opened her eyes and looked at the piano keys. They were the same keys she had touched thousands of times in her dreams, white and black, waiting for her to bring them to life. She thought about all the music that lived inside her, all the songs she had kept locked away for so many years. She could choose an easy song, something simple that would not sound too bad. She could play Happy Birthday or Mary Had a Little Lamb and let everyone laugh at her. That would make Mrs. Whitmore happy, and Maria could keep her job, but something deep inside Maria's heart started to wake up. It was the part of her that had never died, the part that remembered who she used to be before life became so hard. She thought about her daughter Sophia, who was going to college to become a doctor. She thought about her son Miguel, who dreamed of playing soccer professionally. She thought about her husband Carlos, who believed in her even when she did not believe in herself. Maria placed her fingers on the keys and began to play. The first notes of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 filled the room like magic. Maria's hands moved across the keys with perfect precision, her fingers remembering every note as if she had played the piece just yesterday. The music was powerful and beautiful, full of emotion that made people hold their breath. The guests stopped whispering immediately. Their mouths dropped open as they realized what they were hearing. This was not the embarrassing performance they had expected. This was the work of a master pianist, someone with incredible skill and talent. Maria lost herself in the music. She forgot about the cruel guests and Mrs. Whitmore's mean smile. She forgot about her cleaning uniform and her rough hands. She became the music, letting it flow through her body and soul. Her fingers danced across the keys like they had been waiting 20 years for this moment. The concerto was one of the most difficult pieces ever written for piano. It required not just technical skill, but deep emotional understanding. Maria played every note perfectly, but more than that, she played with feeling that brought tears to people's eyes. In the audience, the mayor leaned forward in his chair, amazed by what he was hearing. The famous doctor put down his wine glass and listened with complete attention. Even the bank owner, who never cared about anything except money, felt his heart beating faster as the music washed over him. Mrs. Whitmore's smile disappeared from her face. She had expected Maria to play a simple song badly, not perform one of the most challenging pieces in classical music perfectly. Her plan to humiliate Maria was backfiring in the worst possible way. Maria continued playing, pouring her whole life into the music. She played for her mother, who had believed in her talent. She played for her children, who deserved to see their mother as more than just a cleaning lady. She played for her husband, who had never stopped loving her even when times were hard. The music told the story of Maria's life. It spoke of dreams lost and found, of love and sacrifice, of hope that never died even in the darkest times. Every person in the room could hear their own story in the music, their own struggles and triumphs. As Maria played the most difficult passage of the concerto, her hands flying across the keys with incredible speed and accuracy, people began to realize they were witnessing something extraordinary. This was not just a good performance. This was the work of a professional musician, someone who had trained for years to reach this level of skill. The bank owner turned to his wife and whispered, "Who is this woman?" The mayor's wife was crying, moved by the beauty of the music. "I have never heard anything so beautiful," she said quietly. Even the youngest guests, who usually played with their phones during boring adult events, were completely focused on Maria's performance. The music spoke to everyone, no matter their age or background. Maria reached the final section of the concerto, the part that required the most emotional expression. She thought about all the nights she had lain awake worried about money, all the times she had been treated badly by rich people, all the dreams she had given up to take care of her family. But she also thought about the good things in her life: her children's laughter, her husband's love, the pride she felt in her work, even when others did not appreciate it. The music she carried in her heart, which no one could ever take away from her. The final notes of the concerto filled the ballroom with overwhelming beauty. Maria's hands came to rest on the keys, and for a moment the room was completely silent. No one moved, no one breathed. They were all stunned by what they had just heard. Then, slowly, the applause began. It started with one person clapping, then another, then another. Within seconds, the entire room was on their feet, clapping and cheering louder than anyone had ever heard at the country club. Maria looked out at the crowd in amazement. These were the same people who had ignored her for 3 years, who had treated her like she was invisible. Now they were standing and applauding her like she was a famous concert pianist. The mayor was clapping so hard his hands hurt. The doctor was wiping tears from his eyes. Even the bank owner, who never showed emotion, was nodding his head in approval. Mrs. Whitmore stood frozen near the piano, her face red with embarrassment and anger. Her cruel plan had failed completely. Instead of humiliating Maria, she had revealed Maria's incredible talent to everyone in the room. People started calling out from the audience, "Bravo! Amazing! Where did you learn to play like that?" Maria stood up from the piano bench, still not believing what had just happened. She had played for the first time in 20 years, and it had been perfect. The music had come back to her like an old friend welcoming her home, a well-dressed woman. In the front row stood up and walked toward Maria. "Excuse me," she said, "but I must ask, where did you study music? That was one of the most beautiful performances I have ever heard." Maria's voice was shaky when she answered, "I studied at the Metropolitan Music Academy when I was young." "But that was a long time ago." The woman's eyes grew wide. "The Metropolitan Music Academy? That's one of the most prestigious music schools in the country. You must have been incredibly talented to study there." Other guests started gathering around Maria, all wanting to know more about her background. They asked about her training, her teachers, her experience. Maria answered their questions honestly, telling them about her musical education and why she had stopped playing. As the crowd grew around Maria, Mrs. Whitmore quietly slipped away from the piano area. Her face was burning with shame. She had tried to make Maria look foolish, but instead she had made herself look like a cruel, heartless woman. Maria was surrounded by some of the most important people in the city, all of them treating her with respect and admiration. For the first time in years, she felt like the accomplished musician she had always been inside. The night was far from over, and Maria's life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The applause continued for several minutes as Maria stood beside the piano, still not believing what had happened. The same people who had ignored her for 3 years were now looking at her with respect and amazement. Her hands were still shaking. But now it was from excitement rather than fear. Dr. Elizabeth Morgan, the city's most famous heart surgeon, was the first to reach Maria. "That was absolutely incredible," she said, taking Maria's hands in hers. "I have season tickets to the symphony, and I can honestly say your performance was better than anything I've heard there." Maria felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you, ma'am. That means so much to me." "Please call me Elizabeth," the doctor said with a warm smile. "I have to ask, why are you working as a cleaning lady when you have this amazing talent?" Maria took a deep breath and told her story. She explained about her father's illness, her family's financial struggles, and how she had to give up music to support her loved ones. Dr. Morgan listened with genuine interest and compassion. "Would you be interested in playing at private events?" Dr. Morgan asked. "I'm hosting a medical conference next month, and we need entertainment for the dinner. I would pay you very well." Before Maria could answer, Mayor Richardson approached them. "Excuse me," he said politely, "but I couldn't help overhearing, Miss Santos. My wife and I would love to hire you for our anniversary party. We've been looking for someone with real talent, not just another boring string quartet." More people gathered around Maria, all offering her work. The bank owner wanted her to play at his daughter's wedding. A famous lawyer asked if she could perform at his law firm's annual party. A wealthy businessman offered to hire her as a regular performer at his restaurant. Maria's head was spinning with all the offers. In one night, she had gone from being invisible to being the most popular person in the room. But the best surprise was yet to come. Mrs. Patricia Hamilton, who had been on the planning committee, walked up to Maria with a serious expression. "Maria, I need to apologize to you. I was part of Mrs. Whitmore's plan tonight, and I'm ashamed of what we tried to do." Maria was surprised by her honesty. "Thank you for saying that, Mrs. Hamilton. I want to make it right," Mrs. Hamilton continued. "My husband owns Hamilton Music Academy downtown. We've been looking for a new piano instructor for our advanced students. The job pays $60,000 a year, plus benefits. Would you be interested?" Maria's mouth dropped open. $60,000 was 3 times what she made cleaning at the club. "Are you serious?" she asked. "Completely serious," Mrs. Hamilton said. "After what I heard tonight, I know you're qualified to teach our best students. You could start next month if you want." Dr. Morgan overheard the conversation and had another idea. "Actually, I have a better suggestion. Maria, what would you say to performing at the Grand Opera House next month? I'm on the board of directors, and we're always looking for talented musicians. A solo piano concert featuring local talent, it would be perfect." Maria felt like she was dreaming. The Grand Opera House was the most prestigious venue in the city. Only the most famous musicians performed there. "I don't know if I'm ready for something that big," Maria said nervously. "You're more than ready," said a voice behind her. Maria turned to see James Chun, the city's most respected music critic. She recognized him from his picture in the newspaper. "I've been reviewing concerts for 20 years, Mr. Chun said. "And what you did tonight was extraordinary. Not just technically perfect, but emotionally powerful. You have a gift that needs to be shared with the world." As the evening continued, Maria found herself surrounded by opportunities she had never dreamed possible. People were handing her business cards and phone numbers. They wanted to hire her, promote her, help her restart her musical career, but the most important moment came when Mrs. Peterson, the club manager, approached her quietly. "Maria," she said, "I need to tell you something. Mrs. Whitmore left about an hour ago. Before she left, she came to my office and demanded that I fire you." Maria's heart sank. Even after her successful performance, Mrs. Whitmore was still trying to hurt her. "But I told her no," Mrs. Peterson continued with a smile. "In fact, the club's board of directors has been talking, and we have a new position we'd like to offer you. We want you to be our director of musical entertainment. You would organize all the musical events at the club and perform regularly for our members. The salary is $75,000 a year." Maria could hardly believe what she was hearing. In one night, she had gone from fearing for her job to being offered 3 different positions that paid more than she had ever imagined. The next morning, Maria arrived home just as her family was waking up. She had stayed at the club until midnight talking with all the people who wanted to hire her. Her mind was still spinning with everything that had happened. "Mama, you're home late," Sophia said, coming into the kitchen in her pajamas. "How was work?" Maria sat down at their small kitchen table and told her children and husband everything that had happened. She described Mrs. Whitmore's cruel plan, her terrifying walk to the piano, and the amazing performance that changed her life. "You played piano in front of 200 rich people?" Miguel asked with wide eyes. "And they all loved it," Sophia added. "They did," Maria said, still amazed. "And now I have job offers from all over the city." Carlos wheeled his chair over to Maria and took her hands. "I always knew this day would come," he said with tears in his eyes. "I always knew the world would see how talented you are." Sophia hugged her mother tightly. "Does this mean I can go to college, and Miguel can join the soccer team?" "Yes, Mia," Maria said, crying happy tears. "You can go to the best college in the country if you want, and Miguel can have all the soccer equipment he needs." Over the next few weeks, Maria's life completely transformed. She accepted the position as Director of Musical Entertainment at the country club, which gave her a steady, high-paying job with benefits. She also started teaching piano lessons at Hamilton Music Academy, 2 evenings a week. The concert at the Grand Opera House was scheduled for 2 months later. Tickets sold out in 3 days when word spread about the mysterious cleaning lady who had amazed everyone at the charity gala. Local newspapers wrote articles about Maria's story. Television news programs interviewed her about her journey from janitor to celebrated musician. People were inspired by her tale of hidden talent and second chances. Mrs. Whitmore quietly resigned from the country club after the incident. She could not face the shame of how badly her cruel plan had backfired. The other members made it clear that her behavior was unacceptable, and she was no longer welcome in their social circle. 6 months later, Maria stood on the stage of the Grand Opera House, wearing a beautiful black dress that Sophia had helped her pick out. The concert hall was completely full, with over 1,500 people waiting to hear her play. As she walked to the piano, Maria thought about how much her life had changed. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer just a cleaning lady. She was Maria Santos, professional pianist and music teacher, a woman who had found her way back to her dreams. She sat down at the grand piano and placed her hands on the keys. The audience was completely quiet, waiting for the magic to begin. Maria smiled and started to play. The music filled the opera house with beauty and power, touching every heart in the audience. She played for her mother, who had believed in her talent. She played for her family, who had supported her through everything. And she played for herself, for the dreams that had never truly died. As the final notes faded away, the audience rose to their feet in thunderous applause. Maria stood and bowed, tears of joy streaming down her face. She had learned that talent cannot be hidden forever. Kindness and cruelty both come back to those who give them. And sometimes the most unexpected moments can change everything. Maria's story became legendary in the city. People would tell it to their children as an example of how dreams can come true, even after many years of waiting. It became a reminder that everyone deserves to be treated with respect, no matter what job they do or how much money they have. And Maria? She continued to play piano, teach music, and inspire others to never give up on their dreams. She proved that true talent and dignity cannot be destroyed by cruel people or difficult circumstances. The humble woman who had been forced to play piano to mock her had shocked everyone with her talent. But more importantly, she had shown the world that every person has value and every dream deserves a chance to come true.